Hey everyone, today's story is about a corporate worker who dies saving a cat and gets reincarnated as a cat girl in another world. Now, she's finally living surrounded by fluffy animals she could never touch before. So with that said, let's begin the story. The girl looks puzzled and asks, "Where am I?" She looks at the silhouette, and the figure, holding a pen in its hands, greets her and asks, "Have you finally opened your eyes?" She remembers that her name is Chais. She's an office worker, 29 years old. A true office drone. As she was walking home, she saw a cat. A car was heading straight for it. Chais was scared, and she ran to save it. She realized with disappointment that she had died saving the cat. God said that it seemed so, but thanks to her, the cat was alive. He began to explain that this was the room of rebirth, and that he was the God who presided over rebirths. Those who had lived a wonderful life were given the chance to live another one. Chais asked, "In the same world?" And she realized that it was like in games and anime about another world. God said that this world is in another dimension. In principle, it could also be called another world. God explains that there are too many people in the world she came from, and this one is asking for help. That is why he is sending her from this world to another. A beautiful soul who would not be ashamed to be sent to another world. And since she had done a good deed, God wanted to give her a gift and told her that Chais could choose any ability she wanted. The girl excitedly begins to think that, since that's the case, she wants to live in a body that will live in harmony with animals. She excitedly explains that in her past life, she had allergies and couldn't have pets, but now she wants to live a fluffy life. Chais began asking with a happy face, "Are there dragons there?" And she said she would ride them. God smiled and asked if she was really sure. The girl realized she had gotten carried away, and she said, "Just don't tell me I'll have to save the world and defeat the Demon King." Her parents died young, and she had to work. She just wanted to live a peaceful life now, at least. God reassured Chais and told her that everything was fine and she would live the life she wished for herself. The main thing was that she would exist there. He decided to add a couple of details. After all, she'd have to find a way to get food, and living beings would love her. Besides, she needed knowledge about the world in which Chais would live. The girl said that it was nice, of course, but she didn't need all that. God said goodbye and told her he hoped she would live up to his expectations. Chais looks at herself and realizes she's in another world. And she's 10 years old. She looks at her hands and realizes she thought she would start as a baby. But in any case, her painful life has come to an end. The main character is happy and thinks she can now live however she wants. And she thanks God. She saw the slime, and with a sparkle in her eyes, she began to examine the slime. The main character began to think that this was real slime, so tiny, and she wants to touch it, and she hopes the slime is hypoallergenic. The slime is puzzled. She jumped on the slime, and she was startled that the creature had jumped first. Chais is happy. The main character can't believe how happy she is just from touching a living creature. She introduces herself and asks what the creature's name is. Chais thought it probably didn't have a name, so she decided to give it one and began listing options: slime poyo, pudding, sura. The slime responded to the name Sura, and the creature repeated the names Sura and Chais. The cat girl was shocked that it could speak. The system displayed a message stating that through taming, she had inherited the appraisal skill. Furthermore, thanks to the taming, she can now talk to it. Chais was startled to hear a voice in her head. The main character begins to reason that taming allows her to befriend monsters, and thanks to this, she can acquire new skills. She began to panic, reasoning that judgment was simply a skill for perceiving others' traits. It was an ordinary skill she didn't even need, and she hadn't asked God for such a thing. Sura began to say that Chai's house was just a little further on. The cat girl saw the house, with a "for rent" sign on the empty house. She wondered if it was really okay to just walk in. The main character opened the door and apologized. She sees a table with chairs, a bookshelf. She also smells the scent of fresh wood. She suspects the house is brand new, but empty. Chai saw a letter. It read, "This is a gift for Chais to start a new life." She realized the letter was for her and thought that God must have written it. Slime said that this would be her home, and Sura would also look for a place to sleep. Chais realized that she should look around too. She walked over to the mirror, and she began to wonder what she looked like. She even has cat ears. The main character thinks she can take the form of a cat. Chais turned into a cat and realized that she really could turn into a cat. What interesting ability. She stretched out on the floor and started bragging that she never thought she could turn into a cat, saying she looks like a cutie. The main character realized she needed to keep exploring the house. In one of the rooms, there's a kitchen and food. She opens the door, and there's a bathroom. The cat girl saw that the house had a workshop for making medicine. Everything she needed was there. She continues to think that there are dishes and kitchen utensils here, and there's enough food here to last for a while. There's also furniture, several rooms, and bathrooms, and she realizes that all of this is for her. Chais remembers that God gave her the knowledge to live in this world. She closed her eyes, and she began to delve into secret knowledge. Chais begins to realize that her mind feels like a mountain of encyclopedias. The protagonist understands every language in this country. She even knows how to prepare herbal remedies. The cat girl began trying to remember the land where she lives. And it seems she has ended up in the land of the half-people, ruled by a red dragon. In the past, the half-people suffered greatly at the hands of humans and demons. But the Dragon King decided to challenge the humans and demons, so the half-people gained their freedom and built their own country. Looking through a picture book, Chais begins to wonder if this might somehow help her befriend the dragon. Although for an ordinary citizen, it's probably not that easy to get to know a dragon. She thinks it would probably be disrespectful to ride one, and she's disappointed by this. The main character began imagining various items and potions, and started thinking that if she brewed and sold potions, she could make a living that way. And then she'll be able to go on a journey and see the world. And if the god kept his promise, she'll have fluffy guardians. Chais continues to rejoice. The cat girl is happy to be starting a peaceful life as an alchemist in the forest. Sura asks again, and Chais reaffirms her words about being an alchemist, starting to look around and saying that this will also be their pharmacy. The slime crawled onto the girl's head and told her to do as she pleased. The main character happily declares that from this day forward, she will live here in harmony with all living things. Chais walks along, dancing a little, and thinks that a calm and peaceful life awaits her. Her stomach starts to growl, and she realizes she's hungry. On the table, she sees potatoes, onions, and flour. The main character realizes she can make a simple stew, and she starts looking for milk. She opens the fridge, and she's surprised to find a very cute girl sleeping in the fridge. She opened the freezer, and there was a little fairy. The cat girl is in shock. She asks, "Who is that?" The girl in the fridge wakes up, opening one eye. Chais asks in shock, "Who are you?" The fairy stretches and asks if she is her new owner. She explains that she's a spirit of ice and lives here. She also explains that her purpose is to make Chai's life more comfortable, and that she was just resting in the fridge. The cat girl starts to wonder if this is how she works. Sleeping in the middle of the day, Chais decides to give her new roommate a name and asks if she minds. The spirit, with a sparkle in her eyes and joy in her voice, asks again, is she sure she wants to give her a name? And says she wants something cool. Chai started to worry that people were expecting too much from her. She starts considering names like Ice, Snow, or Shirayuki. The spirit chooses the name Shirayuki. She said she'd never heard that name before, and that it was beautiful. Chai said she was glad to meet her. The spirit said they could leave the refrigerator with her. A system message appeared stating that through taming, she had inherited the ice magic skill. Chais was startled because she heard a voice in her head again, and she thought God had put it there. As Shirayuki flew back into the fridge, she said that if they needed anything, they should just call her by name. The cat girl was in shock. Holding the ingredients in her hands, she began to think that now she had a working refrigerator, and that was just wonderful. Putting on an apron, she said that since the ingredients were ready, it was time to cook. The main character started peeling and chopping the ingredients. Looking at the basket of chopped ingredients, she realizes she needs to saute them, but doesn't know how to start fire. Chais decides to search her mind for knowledge on how to start fire. She turns to the slime and asks if Sura knows how to start fire. Sura replies that the cat girl is a summoner and suggests she simply summon a spirit. The girl wonders who she should summon. A salamander? A salamander crawls out in front of her with a flame on its body and asks if she called it. The main character is shocked that she summoned a salamander and asks its name. She reasons that salamander is the name of the creature's race, and she realizes that it needs a name like everyone else. Chai starts listing names. Fire. The salamander shakes its head. It doesn't like Bobo either. Sarah. The creature's eyes immediately light up, and it says it wants the name Sarah. The cat girl is glad that it liked the name. The main character, petting Sarah, introduced herself and said she was glad to meet her. A system message appeared stating that fire magic had been inherited through taming. Chais began to wonder if that mysterious voice had appeared again. The main character assumed she has learned to cast spells, but she quickly realized there was no answer and that she needed to get cooking. The main character asked the salamander to light a fire. Sarah replies that it's easy. Stirring the ingredients in the pot, Chais asks if it can be stronger. The salamander replies that it's easy. Covering the pot with a lid, the cat girl begins to explain that she's adding water and spices, and that, of course, she'd prefer chicken broth, but that will have to wait for another time. Sura called out to Chais. She said that apparently, by giving these things names, she inherits their abilities, and she asked her to check it out. To which the main character asks, how is she supposed to check that? The cat girl began to wonder if maybe she just needed to say the word status and a screen would appear. And sure enough, a screen appears, and the main character is shocked that it actually appeared. She realized that she could apparently see the stats thanks to her appraisal skill, and it seems this is due to the bonus the god granted her upon her rebirth. The screen shows that her name is Chais. Her race is Cat Beastman. Age, 12 years old. Level, simply amazing. Magic power, simply enormous. Strength, she's a cat after all. Paw strike, stamina, enough to withstand a slime's leap. Unique skills, encyclopedia in the head, taming, and summoning spirits. Inherited skills, appraisal, ice magic, fire magic new. Chais looks at these stats and wonders, what kind of level and magical power is this? She thinks it's because Sura's appraisal is a bit weak. And is her unique skill a deadly paw strike? The cat girl is shocked that she's actually capable of anything in a fight. She continues to ponder, staring at the screen, that she has also inherited ice magic, fire magic, and spirit summoning. Sura told her about this. The main character thinks it's all great and figures that's enough for her to get by in life. She continues cooking and adds salt and pepper. The stew is ready. The girl asks if Sarah will eat with her. Sarah replies that she won't today. The main character realizes she's been turned down. While stroking the slime, she thinks about Sarah and Shirayuki and realizes that she doesn't want them to just help her out of the blue. She also needs to figure out what kind of food they like best. So she asks Sura if she'll have dinner with her. Sura immediately climbs on a Chai's head and says it smells delicious. The girl says it's stew and they can eat it together. The slime starts drooling. The cat girl, puzzled, yells at it to wipe up the drool since it's sitting on her head. Chai's divided the food onto plates and said everything was ready, and she wishes them bon appetit. Sura opens her mouth and ate everything, dishes and all. The main character is in shock, and she yells that you can't eat the plates. The slime, with an innocent look on its face, starts saying that it didn't know you couldn't eat the plates. Chai suggested using her hands to pick up a spoon and eat. Sura said she understood, and she picked up the spoon. Then she reached for the cat girl's plate, to which the girl said you can't eat from someone else's plate without permission. The slime said it wanted more. The main character explained that in that case, she needed to ask for seconds. Chai stirs the stew. Sura is delighted. She says the stew is very tasty and thanks her. The girl begins to reminisce how she used to eat this alone in the past. The main character says she had forgotten that eating with others tastes better. Sura asks if everything is okay. She replies that everything is fine, but thinks that even if the stew is simple, if they share it, it will taste better. The simple stew they ate together seemed very tasty. She says she'll cook it again sometime, but next time it will be even tastier. The cat girl asks what they'll do tomorrow. She doesn't want to exert herself too much. She wants to try looking for fresh water and try making potions. Someone is peeking through the window. The cat at the window realized she was seeing her for the first time, and she noticed that the main character had befriended the slime and thinks it's suspicious, and it needs to be investigated. The next morning, Chais woke up early and realized that office workers are used to getting up early. She left a note on the couch saying she'd be gone for a little while, and Sura was sleeping nearby. The cat girl said enthusiastically that she was going to look for water. It would also be nice to gather some herbs. As she leaves the house, she thinks that Sura is still asleep, so it's better not to make any noise. The main character saw many little birds. One of them landed on her finger, and she thought it was cute. The girl wanted to be friends with it. She introduced herself and asked if the bird would be her friend. She starts giving the birds names, Pai, Chun, and Pippi. Then she says they'll be friends. A system message appeared stating that the following skills have been acquired through taming, warning, research, and agility. She happily thought that the voice in her head had returned, but her dream of a cozy life was gradually coming true. The birds began to say that they wanted to help Chais. The girl was delighted and asked if they could show her the spring, and if there were berries, to help her gather them. The birds said they understood. One of the birds said the spring was over there and pointed the way. Chais thanked them. She dreams of pancakes and realizes that with the berries, she can make pancakes. As she walks forward, the main character dreams of what a wonderful breakfast it will be. Upon reaching the pond, the girl is happy to see such a beautiful spring. She decided to use the assessment. A system message appeared stating that it was ordinary spring water, which could be drunk if boiled. And in the summer, one could even take a dip. The cat girl realized that the water was fine, though considering that this was Sura's assessment, she hoped it wasn't mistaken. She saw some herbs and started picking them, thinking she would make herbal tea after dinner. And she realized it would be nice to grow her own herbs, but that's for the future. Chais realized she needed to take the water home. Upon entering the house, she calls out to Sarah and says she needs help. She needs to boil some water, so she asks if Sarah can light the stove. Salamander agrees. The main character turns around, and she sees Sura, who says good morning. The cat girl says that Sura is a late riser. Slime asks, what do you mean? The main character replies that it's clearly not morning anymore. It's not customary to say good morning at this time of day. Sura should have said she overslept. Sura says she didn't sleep that much and pouts. The girl is shocked. Putting that aside, she asked if Sura had ever eaten pancakes. Sura asked her to repeat that. Chai's explained that they're a very delicate dish made from flour and eggs. The slime started drooling. The cat girl started yelling for her to wipe up the drool and announced that they were starting to cook. Eggs, flour, and sugar. They don't have baking soda, so the pancakes might not turn out as fluffy. The main character looks in the freezer and decides they also need milk and butter. She calls over Shirayuki. She thanks her for keeping the ingredients cold and says she'd like to show her gratitude, so she asks if she'd like to eat some. Shirayuki replied that there's no need to thank her, but spirits really love honey and jam. Chai's replied that she understood and that she would definitely share it with her once she found some. A knock on the window. Chai's is delighted to see the birds. They said they'd gathered a lot. The cat girl is happy and says there's even some in the basket and thanks them. The birds say they did their best for her. The main character picked up the basket and realized she could now make jam, and she'll use half of it for pancakes. A paw got caught on the girl's dress. Chai's turns around, confused. Behind her was that very same kitten in a hat, and she said, just a second. Chai's realized that it was the cat fairy, Kate Sith. The fairy began to say that Chai's was a suspicious girl for befriending a slime and birds. She asked what she was going to do about it. The girl noticed how beautiful the cat's fur was and how lovely its green eyes were. With a sparkle in her eyes, Chai said that the cat was beautiful and she wanted to be friends with him. Holding the berries in her hands, the cat girl began to say that she was baking pancakes and wanted to use the berries as a filling. The cat started drooling. Kate Sith wiped his drool and began to say that he was, after all, a gentleman. Chai's thought that since she had such a cute guest, she would invite him to join them for brunch, extending her hand. The cat asked her to repeat herself. The heroine explained that it was too late for breakfast and too early for lunch. Kate Sith was happy and said it sounded like fun, placing his paw on the girl's hand. The heroine thought his paw was very soft, like pudding. They go inside the house, and Chai starts making pancakes. She sets the table, and it's ready. The cat and Sura are sitting at the table, and Chai's is standing. The cat, sitting at the table, asks if there's honey in the jar. The cat girl says the pancakes are delicious just with butter, but if you add honey, they'll be even tastier. She pours honey on the pancakes and asks them to take a look. She says she'll now add some berries for a touch of tartness. Kate Sith and Sura are drooling. Chai's, shocked, tells them to wipe up the drool. The cat apologizes. She says they're all going to eat the pancakes together. Chai's eats and thinks it's so sweet with the honey. Kate Sith says it's delicious with both butter and honey, and the tart berries really bring it all together. The cat's tail is sticking straight up with happiness. Sura says they literally melt in your mouth. The cat girl notices that they like the pancakes. There's a magical atmosphere all around. Chai thinks it's just like in a fairy tale book, and she can't believe she's eating with slime and Kate Sith. She starts crying and wondering if her dream has really come true. There's herbal tea in the mug. Kate Sith, washing it all down with tea, says it was very tasty. Sura, sprawled out, says it's the first time he's eaten something so delicious. The cat girl starts thinking that she used a lot of ingredients and needs to plan better for the future. Kate Sith asks how long Chai has been living here. After all, he hadn't seen her here before. Chai says that she and Sura moved in yesterday, and the spirits are helping her, too. The cat was surprised. Chai looks at him questioningly. Kate Sith thanked her for the food and said he might be able to repay her somehow. The cat girl said she'd like to make a living by making medicines, since it would be great to know where to sell them. The cat said that next time, he'd take her to the village. He takes a leaf from his hat and says that when she's ready, she should make a whistle out of the leaf and call this one. Then he would come for her. Chai thanks him, taking the leaf in her hands, and says she'll look forward to their next meeting. Chai says goodbye, and Sura says she needs to check something. The main character asks, what's that about? The slime asks if the girl has dried anything here. The girl, with an impassive expression, says yes, she dried the herbs she gathered near the spring. Sura started asking about the spring and the herbs, but then said she didn't remember anything like that. Chai's, looking worried, said she had gathered them while he was asleep. She picked Sura up and said she would need her help tomorrow. It's time to start brewing potions. The main character carries a basket and lists what she has gathered: a healing herb, a bitter berry, and a simple leaf. She began to reason that these could be used to prepare medicine or ingredients for it. She wants to sell medicine in villages or towns. Sura asked sell and asked why, since she already has food here. The girl said that yesterday she used 2 eggs for each serving of pancakes and had already used 6. Slime was angry that it was so much. The heroine continued, saying that's why she needs money, and to earn it, she'll sell medicine. But she needed one ingredient, and that was slime acid. Sura started spitting, and the main character said it wasn't saliva. She asked if he could spit the slime out of his mouth. He agreed, but he began to say gloomily that this was their main offensive skill, which is why they were constantly dying. Chais thought that sounded depressing. She held out a measuring cup and asked if he could spit out half a cup. Sura said he would do it, and he added enthusiastically that he would do his best, and she could expect great things from him. The heroine placed the measuring cup in front of him and said that in that case, she would leave it entirely up to Sura. While the girl was chopping the herbs, Sura filled the cup with slime. The bowls are ready. The slime carries the measuring cup. The main character hugged the slime and said that the acid was simply fantastic and thanked it. Sura blushed, and he ran off, saying that if she was done, then he was going to sleep. Chais said he was cute when he got embarrassed. Then she puts on gloves and a lab coat and says it's time to get down to business. The acid must drip from the glass tube, gradually dissolving the medicinal herb until it turns into a green liquid. Then she adds a bitterberry to turn the liquid yellow. Then she adds a simple leaf and it turns orange. This color reminds her of cough syrup. The main character, with a sparkle in her eyes, thinks this is fun. She has made her first potion. What an interesting career change in another world. She reached for the potion and said she just needed to check its properties using an evaluation. A system message appeared stating that this was a beginner's potion and that it might cause stomachaches. Chais was puzzled and realized that the evaluation was definitely connected to Sura in some way. She wonders if she should dilute it with water. If she boils the water, it should be safe. After all, clean water is essential. Then she wondered if the water spirit might be able to help her. It seemed that this knowledge had just popped into her head. She starts shouting, "Is there a water spirit here?" The spirit emerges from the water and asks, "Did you call me?" The main character realizes that this is the water spirit and notices that it resembles Shirayuki. The main character says she's glad to meet her, introduces herself, and asks if she can create pure water. The spirit gets angry. She says that this is the most basic water magic spell. Of course she can. The girl is scared that she has angered the spirit. She starts apologizing, explaining that she just needed clean water, which is why she asked. She says she didn't mean to offend her. The spirit, with a smile on her face, said she would help, but only if Chais fulfilled her request. Chais is in shock. The spirit told her not to be afraid and that there was nothing to worry about. She just asked to be given a name. The main character asked for the name again, and that was it. The spirit said that Shirayuki told her she had given her that name. The spirit explains, somewhat embarrassed, that they're close, so she wants a name that's just as cute. So, she needs to give her a fitting one. Chai started listing names. Elaine, Ninyu, Aqua. After that, the spirit lit up and said she wanted Aqua, and now she is Aqua. A system message appeared stating that water magic had been inherited through taming. The girl was glad she liked it. Aqua asked if she had asked for clean water. The main character held out a glass, answered in the affirmative, and asked her to pour it directly into the measuring cup. The spirit conjured the water. A system message appeared stating that this was clean water created using magic. Chais was surprised that the assessment worked properly. She thanked Aqua and said that when she had some jam, she would treat her to some. Aqua kissed the cat girl on the cheek and said she would wait. Chais thanked Aqua once more and began adding her finishing touches. The heroine adds water. A system message appears stating that this is still a beginner's potion that will give Sura a stomachache. The heroine said she had no intention of giving this to Sura. She adds more water. A system message appears stating that this beginner's potion is too thick and will cause Sura's stomach to burst. The main character asks, "Has it gotten even worse?" But at the same time, Sura was wolfing down the food. She adds more water. A system message appears stating that this beginner's potion might even help if the creature gets sick. Chais thinks it's not so bad anymore. She continues to pour water. A system message appears stating that this is a beginner's potion and there is no longer a need to add water. Chais gets scared, puts away the measuring cup, and asks, why all of a sudden? The main character realizes that everything is ready and all that's left is to add her feelings. She raises her hand toward it and casts the spell. Chais laughed and said she was joking. The main character, puzzled, tries to figure out what she did wrong. After all, the potion glowed. A system message appears stating that the novice's potion is a true masterpiece, filled with the wishes of a kind girl. Such quality is hard to find these days. It was made by a real witch named Chais. The cat girl was indignant and asked again. Chais begins to reason that it turned out not bad and has only gotten better. At least, she wants to believe that. She pours the potion and realizes she's made 10 servings in one go. Leaning back, The main character begins to think that she should sell this in the village and then buy everything she wants with the money she earns. She thinks about wanting to buy some soap. Just then, there's a knock at the door. Cries for help are heard. Chais asks what's going on. A stranger explains that he wanted to get some honey and climbed into the hive, but now he's been attacked by a whole swarm of bees. The girl thought she should help him. She opened the door and told him to hurry inside. A bitten bear appears before her. The girl is shocked and terrified to see a bear standing before her. The bear shouts that there's a swarm of bees here. Chais replies that this is bad and urges him to come inside quickly. But one of them flew inside. Chai's ears twitched. She felt a rush, and she swatted at it with her paw. The bee says she'll remember, and Chais is surprised by her own abilities. The bear cries and hugs her, thanking her for saving him. Chais replies that she needs to treat him immediately. The main character looks at the potion. She says that the bear might be in pain, but asks him to bear with it. The bear agrees and says he trusts her. The main character takes the potion. She says she'll do everything she can and asks him to rely on her. She then explains that she recently made a beginner's potion and hopes it will help against the bites. The main character calls out to Aqua. The spirit asks, "How can I help?" Or, "Is the jam ready already?" Chai says that the bear has been stung by bees and she wants Aqua to wash the bee's face with water. Aqua turns around and sees the bitten face. Frightened, she asks, "What is this horror?" The bear starts yelling, "What kind of treatment is this?" Chais begins to calm him down and says, "Treatment first." She washed the bear's face. The girl thought it was great that they had gotten rid of the poison. Now she would apply the potion to the bear and asked him to close his eyes. She enthusiastically began pouring the potion and recited the spell. Sura asked if she was serious. And was that her spell? Chai said that wasn't quite right. After all, when she got hurt, her mom used to tell her that, and it helped her cope with the pain. The bear said it really does help a little. The main character said they were done with the treatment. The bear said he already felt better, and he explained that the bees that stung him were killer bees, and they had very tasty honey. The bear usually collected just a little honey and left the rest alone, but not today. His appetite got the better of him, and he took a bit more. Chai said, so that's why they were chasing the bear. The bear said that as a thank you, she could take the honey. The cat girl said she couldn't accept it, since he had risked his life to gather it. The bear started saying he wanted to repay her somehow. A system message appeared stating that the forest bear had taken the name Bear. He looks at the main character and wants to join her. The system window asks her to make a decision. The bear looks at her with endearing eyes and holds out the honey. It all looks just like a game. Chais thinks she doesn't really like the name. The bear began to speak emotionally, saying that he understands everything, that he is, after all, a fearsome forest bear. The main character stopped him and said that he had misunderstood her. Sura explained that a forest bear is a mighty monster. They'll be safe if this one joins them. Chai's told that she wants to be friends with it. She just wanted to come up with a suitable name, a cute bear name, and asked if they should choose Honey or Maple. The bear hugged the girl and said that Maple liked this. Chai said she was happy to meet him and gave him a name. A system message appeared stating that the forest bear had accepted the name Maple. By welcoming Maple into the family, she inherited a sharp claw. The system congratulated her and informed her that she had already tamed 5 friends. The main character was startled when another notification popped up from the game. It stated that as a reward, she could turn one beast into a beast man and asked her to make a decision. Chais realized that this was just like a choice in a game. Chais told Maple that this one is very big and won't be able to walk with her to the village, but she really wanted to go together. Maple said that everyone in the village is afraid of it. The cat girl said that in that case, she could turn into a beast man. With her ability, she can do that. Sura says that's a great idea. Maple starts thinking a beast man and asks if this will help him make more friends. The cat girl said it was decided and tapped on Maple's name. The bear began his transformation. All that remained of his former self was a little tail and ears. Chai started saying that both the tail and the bear ears were very cute. She invited Maple to live with her in the same house and added that there were plenty of empty rooms. The little bear girl runs up to the main character and says she'll live with her. The main character thanks God for a fluffy life. Maple turns back into a bear and says she's glad to have met her. Then she realizes what she's done and apologizes, saying she'll turn back into a beast person now. The next day, Chai said she'd made more potions and wanted to sell them as soon as possible. Sura asked if they were finally going to the village. He went on to suggest that maybe they should invite Kate Sith to stay the night, and they'll set out tomorrow morning. The cat girl said that staying the night was a good idea. Maple started calling out to Chais. Standing at the stove, she says the berries are thick now. The main character is happy and says that's great, and now they can thank the spirits. She praised the bear girl. Maple asked why she was touching her ears. Chais replied, because she's so cute. Maple asked, is that all? Sura started getting upset and it got noticeably louder. And then the girls trip, and they fall in the slime. Maple apologized and said, "Just don't eat them." Sura got upset and started saying that this one might eat her. The bear cub asked if the main character wanted to eat today. She suggested they go hunting. The main character asked if she could hunt large birds. Maple replied that yes, she knew how to hunt guinea fowl, and added that it was a delicious bird. Chai started thinking about this bird and wondered if it was like a chicken, or was it actually chicken, and she decided to see if she could cook it. But then she suddenly looked gloomy, and she fell to her knees. Sura and Maple started to worry and asked if she was okay. Chai's replied that she was fine, just surprised by the cooking process. The little bear girl said she would do everything herself and asked them to just wait. Sometime after catching the bird, Maple said she could handle it, and the main character could go. The cat girl asked if she could stay and watch. Her friend said she didn't mind, but would Chai's be okay with it? Clapping her hands, Chai said yes, and that she had to see it too. They prayed for the bird's repose. Maple said it was time to pluck the bird. Chai's hung her head and began to think about how she didn't understand what it was like to take a life. A little while later, a succulent meal was already on the table. Sura said it looked amazing. Kate Sith said it looked very delicious. The cat girl said that Maple had brought the bird. Maple said that she had also prepared it for cooking. Chai said that this bird would feed them at the cost of its own life. That's why it's very important to be grateful. We should fold our hands before eating. Everyone agreed. They clasped their hands and wished each other bon appetit. After the meal, everyone thanked her in unison for the food and said it was delicious. Aqua, Shirayuki, and Sarah received some jam, and the protagonist thanked them for their help. Aqua said the jam was very tasty. Kate Sith started looking around. Maple said that for some reason, she was constantly looking around. Chai's asked what was wrong. The cat admitted with a sad look that she had become separated from her friends. Maple said she was in the same situation. The cat girl asked if it was true that there were so many lost children in this forest. Kate Sith began to explain that this used to be a blessed forest, but now the flowers don't even bloom as vibrantly as they used to. A holy maiden lived in the Dragon King's palace. Chai's was shocked by how this holy maiden had introduced herself. Maple interrupted and said that when the holy maiden was there, all illnesses healed on their own, and there was plenty of food in the forest. Chai's asked if there was any now. Kate Sith began to recall sadly that she was of the human race, and that was why she died so young. Now, life in the forest has become harder. Her companions had been looking for a more suitable place, so they had left. Chai's asked anxiously, "Is she alone now?" The cat was crying, and Sura stroked her and comforted her. Chai's jumped up and said, "Since that's the case, let her live with them." Kate Sith asks if that's really okay. The cat girl says there are still plenty of empty rooms here. Hugging the main character, the cat began to cry, and says that she was lonely and won't leave her side for a moment. The cat girl says that now she'll be her child too, and she remembers that she needs to give her a name, since Kate Sith is, after all, the name of the race. She needs to find a suitable name. The cat is happy and demands a name. Chai's continues to wonder if there's a way to reflect this one's coat color. She looked at the Kate Sith's paws, and with some hesitation, she said the name Kutsushita, then socks, and she starts to get nervous, realizing she's terrible at coming up with names. The cat says it like socks. Sounds great. A system message appeared stating that a dance had been inherited through taming. The cat girl doesn't understand why she needs this. She remembers dancing, but only at home. Next, Maple said she would carry the things. Chai's thanked her. She asked about the bees' mood and guessed that they were still angry. Maple said that was true, but in reality, they had been friends for quite some time. She protected the area around the hive, and they gave her honey. And when she came to get her share, the bees started saying they wouldn't give her anything else. And for some reason, their soldiers suddenly attacked her. Now, Maple hopes they'll make up. Chai's noticed that they used to be pretty close. Socks realized that most likely the bees didn't have enough flowers, so there wasn't much honey, and everyone in this forest was just trying to survive. The girl started to feel sad and think about how she'd thought she'd enjoy life, and realized she'd better prepare herself more seriously. After all, they're heading to the village now, and she's going to sell medicine to strangers, and she's worried that nothing will work out. The main character asked if everyone was ready. Everyone answered yes, and in unison, they said it was time to head to the village. The village they're heading to is called Lured. It's the only village nearby. Chai's asked Socks if she's been there before. Socks replied that she's a well-known figure there. Socks says that these lands aren't as prosperous as they used to be, so not many people choose to live here instead of in the capital. A small village lies before them. Socks says, "Here we are in the village of Lured." The main character starts saying that there's such a scary guard there and asks if he'll definitely let them through. Two intimidating wolves are standing at the entrance. Socks said that she usually crawls under the fence. Chai said, "That's me, but what about you guys?" And she decided to talk to them, not to be afraid. Everyone shouted, "Long live Chais." The girl walked up, bowed, said hello, and introduced herself, adding that she had recently settled in the forest. Then she introduced her companions, Maple and Socks. Chais explained that she had come to the village on business. The guards said they were glad to meet her, and then started worrying and saying that it must be scary to live alone in the forest, and that it was good she had so many companions. The main character immediately thinks to herself that they seem like good people, since they're so concerned about her. The guards asked what business she had brought her to them. Chai said she had prepared some medicine and would like to sell it, and then browse their stalls. The girl opened her bag slightly. There were many containers inside. "The wolves are happy." One asks, "Medicine?" And the second says, "That's exactly what we need." One of the guards ran off and said he would inform the village head immediately. Sura and Chais are shocked. The second guard began explaining that they don't get many merchants, and besides, apothecaries aren't particularly keen on living there. While the Dragon King's wife was still alive, she used mass healing every night on all the lands far from the capital. No one suffered from common illnesses. Now there is no treatment, and many people have fallen ill. There aren't many medicines, so they are very grateful. The main character said that she is the one who should be thanking them. A cough is heard from behind. The village head has arrived. Chais is shocked to realize that this is the village head. The man apologized and said that his cough just won't go away, and asked if she was a pharmacist. Chais replied that not exactly. The village head began to say that the guard told him they had brought medicine and that they were very grateful for it. He also says he would like to buy all of it for the village. Everyone is shocked. Chai starts to think that bringing the medicine seems a bit off, as if she's forcing them to buy it. Chai's made a decision. She took out one bottle, walked over to the village head, and said she'd like him to take one bottle for free, and also to see if it's worth buying at all. The guards are in shock. Someone asked, "Don't you need the money?" She replied that yes, she did, but for the village, the main character was a new merchant. And she asked, shouldn't they let them try the product first? Sok said that made sense, and she started trying to convince the headman to give it a try. The headman said he doubted he could recover from a potion made by a novice. Sura said that this one was different from the others. Maple held the village head's head. The village head drank. Socks fed it to him, and Sura guided Sock's hands. Chais was shocked by their persistence. The village head drank the potion and said he no longer felt pressure in his chest. Chais asked if she could use her appraisal to check how healthy he was. The village chief, shocked, asked if she could use her appraisal and said by all means. She placed her hand on his chest. A system message appeared stating that his name is Garm. Race, Beastman. Status, fully healthy. Level, normal for his age. Intelligence, as expected of a village elder, very smart. Physical endurance, not too bad. Gender, male. Unique skills, cutting claw, fong bite, headlong charge. Chais began to think that this was good. At least there was a suitable line. And she tells the village elder that she's checked, and he's completely healthy. Everyone started shouting that this was wonderful. The guard in glasses started shouting joyfully that the village elder is now healthy. The main character began to think that the guard is very energetic. Garm said he was in charge of the village's medicine and asked her to come to his house. Chais followed him. Socks noticed that the locals had come outside and were watching. The CATGIRL said that was indeed the case. One said his mother was sick and asked to buy medicine. Another said her children were sick. Chais was shocked. The main character began to think that the guard at the gate had shouted loudly, and people with sick family members had appeared. Everyone started shouting that they should sell the medicine first. The girl began to calm everyone down. She explained that one bottle was enough for one person and asked them to stop shouting and calm down. Garm began to say that he understood why they were in such a hurry, but there was no need to be greedy. Each of them would get their share. Chais began to explain that all these medicines were of the same quality as the one she had given him, and that she had 18 bottles. The elder said he thought that would be enough. Teresa, the village head's wife, says she can't believe the elder has finally recovered. She thanks the main character for this. She also notes that the quality of her potions is on another level. Garm suggested that her god had sent her to them. The main character thinks to herself that this is partly true. Chais asks how much they're willing to pay for the potions. Socks began to say that they should usually sell them at the local market price. The last merchant was charging 200 money. Chais asked if that was true, and she said she could rely on Socks. Garm said that was correct. That merchant had sold them for 200 money. The village head continued, saying that the usual price is 100 money, but considering the huge distance to their village, he raised the price. Chais began to think that it must be hard for them to pay that much. She said that, since she lives nearby, they could settle on 100 money. Garm was shocked. The main character continued, saying that people need medicine, and if it's expensive, they won't be able to afford it. The elder was shocked and asked again about the 100 mani, and also asked if they could really buy them at the regular price. Then he said that the village is saved. God has truly taken pity on them and sent Chais. Garm begins to say that they are ready to make a deal, holding the cat girl's hands. She hands over the potions, and the village elder thanks her. The main character started to think that she had been a little worried, but she managed to pull it off. The people will be happy, too. The villagers started giving her various items and telling her to take the potatoes they grow and the freshest eggs, too. She was shocked by how much they gave her and said she had only sold some medicine. Maple was happy to have so much. The main character started thinking that the villagers had given her food and even soap. Then she remembered that she didn't have any spare clothes and that they needed to buy some. The little bear girl asked her, "Me too," and thanked the main character. They arrived at a general store. Chai says that the dress really suits Maple. Maple says she'll buy it then. The main character is happy and can't even remember the last time she went shopping with friends. The cat girl wonders, since Maple changes her form, why do her clothes stay intact? Sura begins to explain that the clothes are made from arachne thread. Chais asks for clarification. Slime explains that it's a spider monster. The material it produces allows for the creation of clothes for beast folk. And she says that sometimes she doesn't understand things that are completely obvious. She thinks to herself that she still doesn't get it. The main character starts thinking about trying on. Someone starts screaming that they're under attack. Chais is in shock. The shopkeeper starts saying that they're being attacked by goblins and asks them to hide so they won't get hurt. Sura says that Maple and Chais are strong and will help protect the village. The main character, frightened, says she isn't strong and can only hit with her paw. The slime says that Chais can summon spirits. The cat girl starts asking why it's being so mischievous, but she really hadn't thought of that. The shopkeeper asked if she had thought the main character was an apothecary and hadn't even suspected she knew how to fight. Chais ordered Socks to keep an eye on the shop. Socks said he would try. The heroine began to think that she didn't want the locals to get hurt, so she would help. Maple, Sura, and Chai set out to help. A red dragon flew over the town and began to remark that it was cloudy today, but it was good that it wasn't raining and he hadn't gotten wet. But that doesn't matter to him right now. He sees a village and says this one will do. But then he suddenly spots goblins, and he thinks he needs to help the village. The goblins started shouting that they had come for food. The guards started shouting that they needed food and asked them to protect the granary. Chais remembers Maple's words that there used to be plenty of food in the forest, and Sock's words that now everyone is trying to survive. She starts thinking to herself that food is the root of all this, which means the goblins are starving too. No wonder they're so skinny. Teresa started saying that it's too dangerous here. The main character looked at her, and she began to say that it might sound silly, but maybe they could come to an agreement. Explain that this isn't the answer. After all, they have their own reasons for this, and if it doesn't work out, would they just kill them all? Maple thought for a moment, and she began to say that the goblins might understand that you can't take what doesn't belong to you, even if things are bad for them. And the main character was right that they should talk to them first. Garm began to say that they weren't going to fight the goblins. Teresa noticed that they were kind, and she thinks that the cat girl really was sent to them by God. Chai says they need to capture them first. A dragon appears and says he'll scare them off. The heroine is shocked. It lets out a roar. The goblins are scared, and the dragon says they're immobilized, and it's the perfect time to attack. He orders them to be tied up. The cat girl is in shock that dragons actually exist. Maple also says it's the first time she's seen a live dragon. The girl looks at the dragon and wonders if it's on their side. At least this one definitely didn't fly in to attack. The guard reports that he has tied up all the goblins. Chais looked at the shadow, and she saw that it was slowly shrinking. The Dragon King appeared before her. He asks if the heroine is going to kill them. After all, they attacked to rob them. Chais wonders if this is the red dragon. The dragon asks again if she intends to get rid of them. The heroine began to worry and said that there must be another way to solve this. If they have enough food, then no one will have to be killed. The dragon smiled. The heroine felt embarrassed. The dragon apologized and said he wasn't laughing at her. He was just surprised at how kind she was. Just like his mother. Chais was puzzled. The dragon asked her not to mind it. The goblin started crying and saying they'd failed, that now these people were without food and hungry. The girl started to approach them. The dragon tried to stop her and said that even though they were tied up, still, Chai sat down next to them and asked why they had attacked. Do the goblins have nothing to eat? A goblin began to explain that there were almost no fruits left in the forest, nor were there any roots left that they had dug up from the ground, and there weren't enough mushrooms either. The cat girl began to think that everything was just as Socks had said. The goblin started saying that his mom had a little goblin in her belly and began to cry. Chai started saying that she understood how hard it was without food. The goblin asked why she felt sorry for them. After all, they had tried to hurt them. The main character began to say that the baby would be born soon, and there was no food. She understood how they felt. But that doesn't mean they can take food from others. Goblins know that's wrong. The goblins started saying that they need food. The cat girl began to wonder if they could help them somehow. The dragon looks thoughtfully at the main character. The village head runs up to them and asks if everything is okay. Is anyone hurt? Chais is glad to see the head. The guard says that the lady apothecary is unharmed. Garm is glad she is alive and well. He saw the red dragon, bowed, and began to say that he was grateful that he had come to their remote village. The main character began to wonder, are red dragons really that impressive? The dragon asked her not to thank him, since he was only a half-breed. Garm said that even so, dragons rarely visit them and asked him to introduce himself. The dragon introduced himself as Alf. Chais asked Sura if red dragons were really that amazing. Sura replied that she had all the necessary knowledge and told her to see for herself. The heroine began to think that he was up to his old tricks again. The Beastmen Kingdom is an independent state founded by the Red Dragon King. So red dragons rule the country. So the red dragons are the local royal family. Chais got scared and thought, I hope they don't tell me he's the local prince. But he doesn't look like him, and she can't just ask him outright. That would be rude. Alf called out to Chais. Pointing at the goblins, she said that she had wanted to do something about them. Shouldn't she have discussed this with the village elder first? The girl remembered. Garm asked, what should we do about the goblins that attacked us? The heroine began to explain that those goblins had attacked because they had no food. The elder said that no one had forced them to attack. When the Holy Maiden was still alive, nature provided enough food, but now she is gone. They started farming to feed the people, and the goblins immediately turned to thievery. The elder is angry. Chais began to reason that this was just like the story of the people from her past life. If she understood correctly, when hunting and gathering became insufficient, people turned to farming. And then she said they would no longer rely on the forest. She asked if they could hire the goblins to work. She suggested expanding the fields. Garm asked for clarification. He said that they did indeed have a lot of unused land. Chais crouched down next to them and said that they would plow the land and grow their own food. That way, they would be able to provide for themselves. But the goblins would have to say goodbye to life in the forest. If they put in enough effort, they would never go hungry. She asked if they could leave the forest. A goblin asked if there would be enough food for his pregnant mother. The girl said that if they all worked together, they would be able to feed everyone. The goblins began to say that they would do it. The goblins started shouting that they were ready, and they asked her to tell them about working in the fields. They would do their best. Garm said he couldn't believe the goblins would actually work, and he asked if it might be worth calling Chais a saint. Chais silently begged them not to call her that just because of one thing she did. After all, she just wants to live surrounded by cute creatures. The elder began to say that if the goblins are willing to work hard, then they are ready to accept them. But they don't have enough food to support the goblins. Considering the tax they have to pay, there's only enough food for the locals, and they won't be able to give any to the goblins. The girl poured out the coins and said that was all she had left. She asks if this will be enough. Looking at her palm, she starts to feel sad and says she doesn't understand how she's supposed to get food with this to begin with. Sell more potions? But even that wouldn't help. Chai starts crying. Alf looks at Chais and asks why she's crying. And he asks if she really wants to help the goblins while they're growing food. He placed his hand on her head and asked the village elder if he was right in thinking that the village tax was a third of the harvest. Garm answered in the affirmative. Alf continued, asking if they could give the goblins food if they didn't have to pay the tax. The elder answered in the affirmative, and he asked, how could they not pay the tax? Chais asked if that was possible. Alf began to say that their country was for all half-humans and that they should live together. The goblins had shown sincerity and sufficient intelligence. These goblins want to settle in the village, which means we must acknowledge their desire to become citizens of our country. We could try to get permission to temporarily waive the tax. Chais and the elder were happy. Garm said it was a brilliant idea, though it would take quite a few days to reach the capital. Alf said there's no need for that. He'll fly there and let them know. He's sure they'll grant permission. This plan will definitely be approved. And he turned to the tearful cat girl, telling her to stop crying and keep an eye on everything here. She exclaimed, which one of us is the crybaby? The dragon laughed and flew away. Chais began to wonder who he really was. Garm began explaining to the goblins on the blackboard what vegetables they would be planting this year. Chais thought the village head had already gotten down to business. Alf flies along, thinking that the reason he decided to go this far for the sake of this village is his own desire. Or rather, not quite. After all, Chais had been crying because she couldn't help the goblins. Perhaps he was struck by her kind heart. If he can help, he'll do everything he can. He flew to the royal castle of the Beastmen Kingdom, the castle of the Red Dragons. The dragon began to say that it had been a long time since he'd been here. Alf walks over and starts thinking that he had acted confident and promised to sort everything out, but the dragon doesn't even know where to start. Maybe he should talk to his father. After all, he must be in his study. Someone appears before him and says, well, Prince Alfred. The man thought they wouldn't see him again and asked where he's been. It was Galdred. Revenant snapped at him, telling him not to address his highness that way, without permission. Galdred turned around and shut him up, saying that Alf was just a parody of a dragon. Revenant pinned him against the wall and said that one more word and he'd arrest him for disrespecting the royal family. Alf told them to leave Galdred alone. Revenant started shouting that Alf was the rightful second prince of their kingdom. The dragon said everything was fine and that everyone in this palace underestimated him. And he declared that, when the time comes, he'll make Galdred take his words back. Alf thinks that even though he isn't that big, he's still a dragon. But he had a reason to talk to his father. King Alfred, the Red Dragon, asked where he had been all this time. His older brother Siegfried says they were worried. Alf said he needed some time alone. He apologized for making them worry. Alf decided to tell them everything. After hearing the story, his father fell into thought. He began by saying that the village of Lourdes is far from other towns and villages, so there are no lords there. Taxes go directly to the state. In essence, it's under their control. He thinks that if they want to make such a decision, there won't be any problems. And he asked Alf if he thought these people could become legal citizens. At first, they had wanted to attack the village because of a food shortage. But there was a girl in that village whom the others called the apothecary. She talked them out of it. And for the sake of their own families, they decided to change. The father is in shock. Alf continued, saying that the locals trust her very much. But there won't be enough food in the village for the goblins if they pay taxes, so he would like to grant them an exemption from paying taxes until life in the village stabilizes. The father and older brother exchange glances. Alf is worried. Siegfried began to say that good people are the treasure of their country. If there are more of them, he has no objection. Alf is happy. His older brother hugged Alfred and said he couldn't believe he'd taken an interest in politics, since he'd never been interested in it before. Alf said it wasn't politics at all. He wasn't blessed with the power of a dragon like his older brother. Besides, Alfred had no close friends or relatives other than his family. The apothecary in that village managed to convince the goblins. Her kindness won them over, and then she cried, saying she couldn't help them any further. And she had a gentle gaze just like Mom's. His older brother started laughing and said that Alf must have fallen in love. Alf blushed. Father agreed and said that Alf would have to stay there and oversee the process. Naturally, Alf would have to take full responsibility. If he ends up in a remote village, it'll be a great opportunity to show what he's capable of. After all, Alf is a dragon too, but there are those who place too much importance on the purity of their blood. His mother was different from all of them. She was a saint of the human race. The Red Dragon King challenged both humans and demons and, through his own efforts, established an independent state of half-humans. The human kingdom gave the Holy Maiden as a gift. This marks the end of the war. The mother began to untie the girl and said she didn't know what would happen to her if they sent her back, and suggested making her the second queen. After all, this girl possesses holy power and can help their country. She asked, "What is your name?" The girl introduced herself as Amelia. She performed miracles for their country. The people recognized and loved her, but her life was quickly coming to an end. The people who mourned her death had high hopes for Alf, the second prince, but he possessed neither the power of dragons nor the power of a saint. The only thing he was capable of was basic holy magic. His father said that many people didn't want to see him here. Their country was still very young, and he couldn't silence them all. But he believes that one day Alf will awaken his true power, and until then, he will have to be patient. Alf began to think that if he had inherited his mother's power, he must fulfill his duty. He stepped out into the hallway and ran into Galdred again, who greeted him and called him a lizard. And then he smirked. Alf was clearly not happy about this encounter. He remembers that they used to spend a lot of time together, playing and walking, but that was a long time ago. Alf told him that his father had ordered him to take care of the border village, and he wouldn't be around for a while, nor would he appear in front of Galdred. Alf asked if that was okay with him. Galdred was surprised. Alf added that it would be easier for him there. Galdred thought about the fact that the royal family's favorite had been exiled to a remote region, and that piqued his interest. Meanwhile, Chais began to argue that if they wanted to give the goblins a place, this was a perfect spot, and she asked them to drive in the stake. She was very curious about how Alf was doing. At that very moment, the dragon soared above them, and the group cheered. Chais asks, "What's going on?" The dragon said it was a success and that the king had granted them tax exemption. Everyone was very happy. The goblin asked if, since everything worked out, he could bring his mom. Garm agreed and said they could help with that. He added, that he welcomed the goblins to their village and asked the villagers to help them settle in. Chais was happy to see Alf return and greeted him. Alf began reminiscing about his childhood, recalling how he told his mother that Galdred had called him a mistake, and if he was a mistake, did that mean she didn't love him? His mother replied that he wasn't a mistake at all, just that he still had to break out of his shell. Alf asked again. His mother said that the most important thing was for him to have someone to protect. His holy power would blossom when he found those he wanted to protect. He happily recalled those words. He ruffled Chai's hair and said he was home. She was indignant that he had done it so roughly. The dragon smiled and said that his emotions had gotten the better of him. Garm runs toward Chais. He says that since they've started expanding the fields, many people might get hurt. He asks if he can order more medicine. The main character said he was right. Socks volunteered to gather herbs. Maple said she would guard them in the forest. The main character said it was time to head back. Alf asked if she was coming back. Chais asked what he was going to do. Was he going to fly home or stay here? Alf thought for a moment, and he asked if she had a home somewhere around here. Chais was taken aback by the question. She said she had a house in the forest and that she would brew potions there. He asked if the house was big. The cat girl replied that it was quite big and that her friends lived with her. Alf said that sounded great and asked if he could stay with them. Chais was shocked. Maple started nudging her and saying, "Doesn't Alf think a boy and a girl of the same age can live together?" Socks objected, saying he was a boy too. The main character started saying that she and Socks are of different races and can't get married. Socks countered that they're both cats. Maple objected to this and asked Socks if he was interested in the main character in that way. If so, then in that case, he could leave the house. Socks replied that only Chais gets to decide here. Sura interrupted the conversation and said he doesn't even know his own gender. Chais realized everyone was looking at her and thought they could all live together. But would the others be able to accept Alf? The girl said everything was fine. They all have their own rooms anyway. If Alf isn't allowed, then by that logic, neither is Socks. Alf said he hopes they'll get along. Chais thinks the atmosphere is a little tense and hopes everyone will get along. Garm said it was already quite late and suggested they spend the night in the village. The cat girl thanked him. The next day, they arrived home. The main character asked if everyone was hungry and said she would cook something. Socks is happy that Chais is cooking. Maple added that her food is always delicious. Alf asked if she really was that good of a cook. Maple started listing pancakes and a bird stuffed with vegetables. Sura said everything was very tasty. Al said it sounded great and wanted to try some, and he asks if he can. The main character said that since he lives here now too, of course she'll cook for him. He's happy, and he replied that it was great. The cat girl thought he looked happy, but there's nothing special about that. She hadn't expected Alf to be living with him too, so she doesn't know what he might like. Chai said she'd cook something new for everyone. She showed Alf the room and said it was his room, and she asked him to air out the bedding before using it. Alf said he liked it. The main character started giving orders. Aqua, water. Sarah, fire. Sarah said to leave it to her. Aqua said, sure. The girl is cooking. Something new. The rice omelet is ready. Socks said he didn't know what it was. Sura said it looked a bit like him. Chai's asked to see the coolest part. She touched the tip of the knife to the fluffy, steamed egg mixture and cut open the omelet, revealing fluffy rice inside. Everyone was surprised. Then they clasped their hands and wished each other bon appetit. Sura took a bite, and he said it was delicious. Maple said the eggs were very tasty. Socks said he liked the rice. Alf said it was the first time he'd seen a dish like that. The main character thought that Alf seemed like a child on the outside, but acted like an aristocrat. She figures he's probably a nice guy. Alf was overwhelmed by the taste. Chais continued to think that his reaction was exactly what you'd expect for his age. Cups of tea had already appeared on the table, and the group thanked her for the meal. Socks said he wanted to try the omelet again sometime. A little while later, the main character said she was going to go gather herbs and asked what they thought. Maple, Sura, and Socks said they'd go with her. Alf asked if he could go with her. Chais was surprised that he was asking, since he could just go. Suddenly, memories from her past life surfaced in her mind. Her friends at school were getting ready to go to karaoke and had invited her. A guy came up to her and asked if she would go, since he didn't mind going there himself. She asked why he was saying that. The boy replied that he'd changed his mind, and the girl started scolding Chais because he clearly liked her, but she'd treated him cruelly. At that moment, Chai surmised that perhaps her lack of emotion was the reason she'd never had a boyfriend. But now she decides to forget about it and invites Alf to join them, holding out her hand. He takes her hand. She begins to think about how his hand is warm and quite strong. It reminds her a bit of an octopus tensing up. She wonders when was the last time she held a boy's hand. It's a little awkward after all. Alf smiled. Chais felt embarrassed. She abruptly stepped aside and realized she had blushed all over just from taking his hand. In her past life, she had been 29 years old, a fully grown woman. Maybe she was embarrassed because she was in a child's body? Alf said they could go. Chais agreed and said, yes, it's time to head out, and asked Maple to take the basket. Maple says they should leave the things with her. Socks gets angry and says he can carry something. Alf told them not to argue and to listen to Chais. The main character exhaled, realizing that no one had noticed her embarrassment. Everyone said it was time to go. Chais started worrying. Would everything be okay? To be continued. Thanks for watching. Write your feedback in the comments. If you like the story, please like and subscribe. See you soon.